Wake your ass up
or take a damn nap.
And we're the three best friends that anybody could have.
It's time.
Sean, you were twerking. That's going to happen.
Murph, don't be a dick all your life.
It's one of the more fun podcasts I've ever done.
Hey, I tell you what, if you're not talking about sports in the man cave, I bet not say you not a bed.
That's it.
The Tigers are going to win it! It's 98-82! 3, 2, 1! Ball game is over! Your Fighting Tigers are national champions!
How about that? Reliving the moment a little bit over a week ago. And we got a guy who finally got some sleep. Joe Schwartz, assistant coach on Kim Mulkey's staff. He's a former Longhorn. We're going to dive all into that. But, Joe, you got to tell me, so you averaged perhaps 2 hours of sleep the previous 6 days, but last night you just hibernated for like 12 hours, I bet.
That was it. And that video, by the way, just gave me chills. It doesn't get old. I've actually plugged the USB drive of the game into my TV in my living room, and it's just been on a repeat all week. But
as it should.
Last night I finally put the phones on Do Not Disturb and laid my head down and was finally able to I got about 12 hours of sleep last night, which was much needed. And I'm sure tonight when I get home, I've been traveling a little bit today. When I get home tonight, it's going to be the same thing. But, Coach, we have a 9 a.m. staff meeting, so she never stops. And then we're hopping on a plane tomorrow and flying to New York for the WNBA draft to hopefully see 2 of our players get drafted tomorrow night.
It's a beautiful life. Beautiful. But the work never stops. You just won a national championship. Kim Mulkey, who won 3 at Baylor, wins 1 at LSU. LSU has been on that scene in women's basketball for a while, but finally got the job done. I know it's a group effort, but everyone back here in Austin can say it took a Longhorn to help LSU win a national championship, but that's just a small part of it.
And a lot of the people at LSU think it took the Longhorns in 2019 for LSU to win their football national championship. If it weren't for that busted coverage on 3rd and 17, who knows where they would have ended up. So I've got to hear that every day around the office. I see this all the time, but they know that I'm a Longhorn through and through, and I'm so thankful for everything that they've done. And honestly, this year I got a lot of our staff on board with RT and the guys because I really like to see what he was doing and what those guys did. And
beautiful.
Up a little bit short, but it was fun watching them, and I'm excited to see what Rodney and the boys are going to do in the next few years.
That was a great hire. I think it was, everyone was criticizing Chris Del Conte, but that's the policy. Wait till the season ends, and then you determine what will happen. I think most ADs will do that and would agree.
Yeah.
Before we move forward, got to give a shout-out to a Longhorn legacy, that being Jim Saxton, State Farm Insurance Agency. He's been insuring Austin and Central Texas for, 30-plus years. Just gave away his age. Former Longhorn quarterback / running back, DB, whatnot, Westlake Chaparral for life. His dad, by the way, was a Heisman finalist as a running back for UT. But call Jim Saxton for all of your insurance needs. Do you like this name? I caught it because Joe Natty. It's on your Twitter handle. I love it. I think it's fitting. I mean, what else could you be called at least for the next week or so?
Well, that one's going to have to stick for a while. So a little bit of background for those who may not know where it started. Coach Mulkey, her son Kramer is one of my best friends. He's with the St. Louis Cardinals right now in AAA. He made his debut last year, so he's hoping to get back up this year. We were at her house during COVID one night and kind of just we were listening to music and may or may not have been rapping. I can't really call it that because we were rapping, we were freestyling, and somehow Joe Ratty came up. And so the next day, her 2-year-old grandson Cannon came in, and all he kept saying was Joe Ratty, Joe Ratty, Joe Ratty. And so that nickname kind of stuck. And I'm going to actually grab this. I have a bat in my office that says Joe Ratty on it. So the players, they'll call me Ratty. They'll call me Coach Ratty. And we always joked, like, well, what happens if you win a national championship? It's got to be Joe Natty. And 100%. So yesterday, you can't even make this up. I was at my aunt's house in Houston, and I get a text, and it said, I'll read it just so I don't mess this up. It's from an important person. I didn't even have the number saved. Joe Natty, call when you have a moment. Scott Woodward. So our athletic director, if he's referring to me as Joe, and so I called him, and he was just wishing us a happy holiday weekend and asking if I had slept any. But when he called me Joe Natty, I was like, all right, that's going to stick for a little bit. So.
That's amazing. That's so fitting, and I love it. I mean, this is about as organic and real as it gets when you try to get to know somebody. And Joe Schwartz was that way, even when he was a Longhorn. And I did some digging. I have to mention, trying to dig back to when you were a Longhorn walk-on for Shaka Smart. And, you know, I was told to ask the first time you were asked to dress out as a Longhorn when you found out you were going to play. What happened with the uniform and everything?
Well, so the first was with Coach Barnes.
Oh, okay.
So Coach Barnes was the head coach, and that was my freshman year. And I had been working out with the team since really in the summertime. Todd Wright was the strength coach at the time, and I wasn't cleared by the NCAA, so I was working out actually at Train for the Game out in Westlake at Todd's gym. But I'd play pickup with the guys, and then once school started, the plan was for me to start on the women's practice squad because we kind of over-recruited. I don't think they knew that Jordan Barnett and Miles Turner were both going to sign. So we had a lot of talent that year. And then around the time that official practice started, we had a couple incidents and a couple kids had to leave the team. And so I was on the bench for games. I just hadn't suited up yet. And I was practicing and all that. Wasn't traveling. It's a shame I wasn't traveling because the 3 trips I didn't get to go on were a buzzer beater win at UConn that John Holmes hit that 3 in the corner. The tournament we won at Madison Square Garden, and then the game that we lost at Rupp Arena to Kentucky. So those were the 3 games, big road games I didn't get to travel to. But sure enough, December 16th, Coach Barnes came up to me before shoot around, and he said DeMarcus Croker came into my office today and is going to be transferring closer to home to Murray State for some family personal reasons. And he said, how does it sound to suit up tonight? And so it sounds great. We were playing Lipscomb, and Lipscomb was not very good that year. And so my parents originally weren't going to come down to that game. My parents live in Waco and hadn't missed a game yet. And they had called me that morning, and they were like, hey, we're not coming to the game tonight. We have a Christmas party, but we'll be the next one. Well, so after shoot around, I sprint to the locker room, call my mom and dad. I'm like, hey, Coach said I'm suiting up tonight. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, they gave me a jersey. It doesn't have my name on it. It's number 41, but I guess I have to channel my inner Dirk Nowitzki. And if I get in, I got to get a shot up. So my parents shot down I-35, and they made it to the game. And sure enough, with about a minute left, Coach Barnes called my number, and the ball goes out of bounds, and I butchered the inbound play. I didn't know what the play was. And McClurg was trying to call one thing. Terrell was trying to call another thing. And so I ran towards the baseline to throw it in, and ended up not being able to get out of bounds to throw it in. So Terrell throws it in, and Ryan gets it at the top of the key, and Ryan's trying to call elbow, which was a play. And I knew that play, but I'm like, Ryan, there's like 7 seconds on the clock. So pass me the ball.
Let's go.
And I'm like, I'm not dribbling it, because Coach Barnes had always told me, limit your dribbles, because I wasn't the best ball handler. But so Ryan passed it to me, and I knocked it down and kind of blacked out when it happened. And we get back on defense, and Ryan and I switched on a screen, and they threw the ball out of bounds. And that was kind of the first time I was really able to take a deep breath and soak it in. And from that point on, it was a fun next 3.5 years at Texas.
I love
you remember those things.
It's amazing. It's So Scotty McConnell, I had texted him. I said, "Give me some positive dirt on Joe."
Oh boy.
And
hopefully this was recent because I talked to Scotty Mack on the phone for about 30 minutes late last week, Thursday or Friday of last week. So
he's good, man. He remembers everything.
He's been around for a while and he's seen a lot, and he's one of the best in the business.
100% he is. He's love dealing with him. So the celebration in Baton Rouge this week or last week, it's been a week long. I mean, I would venture to say there's not one beverage or one meal that you've had to pull out your debit card for. But I've got I'll pull up some photos here, or a photo or two. And this is from the week that was in Baton Rouge, as I try to make things look smooth here. But this was when you guys won it. It's not pulling up. There we go.
There we go.
We'll pull that off. So it amazes me, and I love it. You're from Waco, correct?
Yes, sir.
Waco. So your family with you on the floor.
Let's dissect that picture on the left, though. We've got my brother, who was a UT grad, Texas Cowboy.
There you go.
Got him in purple and gold. We've got my mom in the middle, Alabama grad, in purple and some gold. We got me with the trophy, former Longhorn, in black and gold. That was kind of my outfit of choice. And then Dad, Texas grad, played JUCO ball before he went to Texas. And we've got him in the purple and gold. So converted quite a few people over the past 2 years. But that was an exciting night. So
that's where the sleepless nights for all the right reasons began.
Yes.
You beat Iowa. And then there's this, I'm assuming that's the parade in the Corvette. Is that a Corvette?
Sir. That's a 71 Corvette. There's actually a group called the Corvette Club of Baton Rouge. And so Coach, when she was at Baylor and won her championship, she always was gifted a Corvette to ride in for the parade and then to drive for the full year until the next Final Four, or whenever, if she were to have ever gone back-to-back, they would have let her keep it. But
right,
what she always did was let her staff members kind of trade off and drive it whenever they wanted to, as long as they didn't wreck it. Or she would drive it here and there. And so when we got to Baton Rouge and won the other night, we called this Corvette Club of Baton Rouge and asked if there was enough Corvettes, could each player and staff member ride in one? So every player and every staff member got to ride in one. And just like they do in New Orleans for Mardi Gras, beads are a very common theme. And so we were all given boxes of beads to throw out. There were a few floats at the beginning of the parade that had cheer and band, some of our training staff and managers that had other different throws, mini basketballs, T-shirts, hats, all types of stuff. And I was with a buddy at dinner the other night, and there's not an official count, but they said over 75,000 people gathered for that event. So
wow.
For those listening who have ever been down to Baton Rouge for an LSU football game, if you're familiar with the Tiger Walk, or like they do at Texas when they let the players off and walk in. It was like that. But to see it for a women's basketball national championship celebration was very special.
Well, I mean, honestly, it shows the growth of women's basketball, period. And, well, two things. The growth of the game and the level of fandom, the how intense and how loyal LSU fans truly are. I mean, yep. It's different. I mean, Austin has UT has great fans. Don't get me wrong.
Do they?
But a lot of them don't show up. But we'll talk on Twitter.
That. Mm-hmm.
However, the Moody Center, I will say, that has been a complete 180.
Yeah, I watched quite a few of our men's games this year, and I still keep in touch with Brock. Brock's still a good buddy of mine, and the atmosphere there is what needed to be there 10, 15 years ago. 12,000-seat arena, loud. You can sell it out every night. That's what you need, and it was fun to watch them this year. But, God, talk about growing the game of women's basketball. Talk about what we were able to do this year at LSU, filling our arena. I mean, we played Mississippi State. Our last home game of the year was a sellout. We had 15,721 fans at a game this year, and God, we had a whiteout for Tennessee game. It's been really, really fun. And one thing I told Coach when she hired me is, I know you're going to be able to get butts in the seats. You're a local kid. You're from Louisiana. You played 4 hours up the road at La Tech. You've got family in Hammond. You're from Tangipahoa Parish. So getting your people there is going to be pretty easy.
Yeah.
Now, what I did in high school and what I did in college was literally go to as many people as I can and say, hey, game tonight, get your butt in the seats, or give out flyers or make posters or do graphics, whatever it was. And so I use my resources. Coach's son, two-time All-American here, pretty well-known baseball player who's with the Cardinals now. I said, well, let's get Coach to the fraternity and sorority houses. So last year we took her on a golf cart one night, and she went by every fraternity and every sorority house, just kind of promoting our program. Well, it was year one, and they didn't know what to expect. Yeah. So we tried to keep building on that, and even to an extent where we would stop by some local establishments, whether restaurants, bars, anything like that, and get them to start helping promote it. And so now every bar in Tigerland, a lot of the restaurants in town, they've got our team posters up with schedules. They have drink promotions. They have food promotions. So it's been real special. And I enjoy the community engagement side of things. And it helps a lot when the product on the court is winning. So as my role on the staff is kind of significant in that way, where I can interact with younger adults in Baton Rouge and restaurant owners and bar owners and older students. And I was a Cowboy at Texas. So you've got to be able to network and meet people because that makes up 25 to 30% of the fan base.
So you've always been a good face, a communicator. I know, if I remember correctly, you were in advertising, then corporate communications. So what did this lead you when you said, you know what, I want to get into coaching? And then how did this opportunity come about for you? I mean, with Coach Mulkey, when she left Baylor to go to LSU, I mean, you're friends with her son, obviously, but I mean, when you look back at this, you think, is this happening this quickly? I mean, obviously you're where you're supposed to be, but is this what you envisioned for yourself just a few years ago?
No, because not to make this about me, but I was at rock bottom, honestly. I graduated from tech, and I say rock bottom very lightly. Everything was fine, but I graduated from Texas with my master's, sport management. And that summer I went to work for the New Orleans Saints and Pelicans, kind of an entry-level job, but that's where you have to start in sports. And was loving every bit of it. I was getting tons of experience, not only on the business side, but also on the sports side, things from helping with training camp on the football side to ticket sales to helping with promotions for the Pelicans and then in-game experience. Well, then everyone knows COVID hits, and any first-year staff member at an entry-level position, especially young, probably wasn't keeping their job or was going to have to find another job. And mine was just an internship. So they weren't going to renew all of the internships because there really wasn't a place for us with seasons being canceled. So I went back home to Waco, and I was living at my parents' house, and Kramer's season gets canceled. So he moves back to Waco, and we didn't really have a ton of other friends in town. And so we spent a lot of time together during COVID. I got my real estate license and was doing real estate, loved it. And then the athletic director at my high school, who was my varsity coach, reached out to me and asked if I'd be willing to coach 2 middle school teams at our middle school and high school. And I said, yeah, what's it entail? And he was like, well, not sure what we can pay you, but basically they've got PE at 2:30. You'll be done by 3:30, and that's it. We'll play 2 nights a week, and I think the kids would really enjoy it. So I was like, yeah, sure, let's do that. So I was working a real estate job from 9 to about 2 o'clock, and I drive over to the high school and meet the kids for PE at 2:30, and we practice till about 3:15 or 3:30. And it was going great. And so Coach Curtis, who was my varsity coach, he would kind of sit in on practices, and he was like, all right, this is fun. So come middle of August, early September, he was like, well, what if you would help with the high school a little bit? And I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Like JV, that'd be great. So decided to do that. JV practice started at 3:30, so I'm already at the gym. What the heck? I'll stay and do that for an hour and a half. Well, the varsity football coach was going to be the head varsity basketball coach that year. And I was like, well, I'll just run JV and varsity together. If y'all can convince him to let me do JV and varsity at the same time, great. So we get closer to the season, and I've gone from doing real estate full-time to real estate full-time on top of practice and getting ready for games. And the season rolls around, and they still hadn't found a JV coach. So they said, you'll be the head JV coach. Well, if JV's playing, that means varsity's got to play. So who's going to be varsity's coach? So it went from a volunteer of 2 middle school teams to I was the head coach for 7th grade, head coach for 8th grade, head JV coach, and then kind of the interim varsity coach until the football season ended, and then stuck around till the end of the season. And we made it to the second round of the playoffs that year. But throughout all of that, I was – in the little bit of free time I had, I would spend a lot of time at Coach Mulkey's house. And I think she saw my potential in coaching, even though it was at a very low level. I mean, TAPS, private school, 3A, but I'd go over there and I'm like, all right, my 7th grade team, we can't get any offense going. What should I run? We were playing teams that are bigger. Should we go zone? And I think she saw not only my interest, but my willingness and my patience with these younger kids. And I think coaching has always just been in my blood. My dad coached my brother and myself growing up until we got to middle school. Then he said, I'm done coaching y'all. But it's just something that I've always wanted to do because of the impact that a coach can have on young kids. And that was, for me, I can probably name every coach I ever had in every sport from the time I started playing sports when I was about 3 or 4 years old. And their lasting impacts. I mean, I still text with Shaka and Rick quite a bit. Those are my guys. And the assistant coaches even more, because people understand head coaches are the CEO. Right. They're the ones that make all the big time decisions. But as an assistant, you've got to find the right group or the right person, the right kid that you can really reach. And that's one thing Coach says. The reason that she has so many people on her staff is one kid's not going to like all 10 of y'all the same way. So if you can connect 1 or 2 kids a year, then that's going to continue to grow your relationship. So the first kid when we get to LSU, and I know I'm going on a little tangent here, Alexis Morris, she's a Beaumont kid, went to Beaumont Legacy, which was a private school. And I had actually seen her play my junior year when I was in the state championship. Beaumont was playing at the same gym. So fast forward to last year when she gets on campus, she was kind of the one that I gelled with the most and the one that wanted to get extra shots up with. And it's just so fitting that the first one that I kind of gelled with is the one that I'm flying to New York to see go get drafted tomorrow in the WNBA draft.
It's a beautiful story, man. I mean, and for I may go deep on this one. I mean, I think young people who are watching this or listening to it, I mean, did you just hear what Joe said? I mean, it's nowadays it's not about one career. You were juggling multiple things, and real estate, coaching. You're trying to find out your direction, but you utilize your connections, your network, whatnot, but you were also made an impact on people knowing that this guy's a natural with kids, natural at identifying talent, and at the same time. You've got Kim Mulkey, regardless of people's opinion, and we'll get into her shortly, but she identifies people for her staff. I mean, she's consistently done it. You don't win national championship just because of herself.
Right.
It's the, like you mentioned, the assistants do a lot of the work. I know the CEO is the head coach, but at the same time, I mean, look at the hardware behind you: national championship, a regional championship. It's all because of collectively, and I know no one wants to hear my opinion, but it's just seeing this entire picture, which included you. Now, fast forward to that national championship game. You elevated your career. You're doing something you love, which everyone should do something you're passionate about. That whole run, I'm not sure you guys knew what the destiny was, but each week I followed you guys, and I know a lot of people did, because it's clearly evident 9 million people were watching. But the whole Angel Reese, Caitlin Clark, that you can't see me, I hate it because she's a baller. Both of them are. And they're great representatives for the game. But the you can't see me is nothing new.
Right.
I mean, when you guys saw it, you probably didn't even think about it. But how it blew up across the country and on social media, all I know is I laughed. I really did. Is that what you guys did?
Well, to be honest, yes, eventually I laughed. I was so caught up in the moment. I'm the type, I really am not a crier. It takes a lot for me to shed tears. I mean, a couple funerals I've been to, I've cried at, but it takes quite a bit. And so with about 2 minutes left, I look over and Mulkey's in tears, and I'm like, oh God, here we
go.
And so I'm getting a little bit emotional. And I'm going looking down the line of staff members. All right, Johnny's got it together. Jen's she has this tissue she always keeps to blot her nose and makeup, whatever. I'm like, she's not going to lose it yet. And then we get down, and Coach G, Gary Reedus, who is probably one of the greatest recruiters and most energetic people I've ever been around, his eyes are swollen. And he's crying, and I'm like, all right, I'll let him out. So I remember vividly, I went back to watch the film, and I'm just sitting there like this, holding my tear ducts. I'm like, please don't cry. Please don't cry. And I'm like, that's not going to work. So tears start crying. But as the clock winds down and finally hits 0, I was like, all right, now it's time to celebrate. So
party.
I didn't see any of this or this. I saw some of our girls running around doing that. And there's a backstory to that that I can share in a little bit that went back to our Elite 8 game.
Right.
But I think we're trying to grow this game of women's basketball, and Caitlin Clark is one of the best I've ever seen play. And I'm glad we got to play Iowa, because I was allowed to sit courtside for the player of the year in the league and in the country, and see her talents displayed on such a huge stage. But also I was able to, on that Friday night, after we won our semifinal game, to just sit there. And yes, we were scouting, but we were also getting to see an incredible display of talent from South Carolina and Iowa. I mean, she had 40 plus points that night, and a dozen assists. She just makes everyone around her better, but she talks a lot of smack and she backs it up. Well, Angel Reese talks a lot of smack and backs it up. So do I have a problem with any of it? Absolutely not. You see it in the men's game every day.
All day.
Growing up, my dad played junior college ball with Vinnie Johnson. Vinnie Johnson goes on to play on those Bad Boys teams. Well, you think the Bad Boys didn't talk any smack? You think the Celtics didn't talk any smack? The Pistons, I mean, Reggie Miller, some of those big-time NBA players. So my question is, why can't girls do it too? If they're backing it up, if 9.9 million people are watching the game, more people watch the women's Final Four this year than ever. So let's continue to grow the game and keep the trash talk under control. But I have no problem with it, and I'm glad Caitlin Clark came out and said what she said. I love it, though, and the girls love it. And we've got a kid coming in next year, a freshman from the Bronx. She'll send me a text or FaceTime me, and, oh, I'm ready for practice next year. I'm ready for practice in the fall. I'm bringing it. I'm bringing the trash talk. I'm like, all right, well, you better be careful because we've got some dogs that just won a national championship that know how to back it up. So But she'll be ready. It's going to be a fun group to be around next year.
I can't wait to see it. And, and it's this region of the country all throughout Texas and even the SEC, all of it. You had South Carolina, who what Don Staley's done has been miraculous for the game. Just new powers. And then, I can see it possibly. I can see it happening here in Austin at some point. But you mentioned Alexis Morris, and I want to play this soundbite. And because I know Coach Mulkey, like a lot of coaches, receive criticism for decisions they make in recruiting. But you mentioned it. Alexis was brought back, and it's into her program that she coaches. And there was criticism, but I love this. This is Coach Mulkey, I believe, right after winning the national championship.
Why some coaches will take a kid like that back, that is a valuable lesson for all of us as parents. Parents want to blame coaches. And look where she's sitting today. Look where she is sitting today. What a remarkable story.
I mean, that's just a small part of it. You've heard it. You know all about it. We talked about redemption. Mm-hmm. If you or I were to say, never made a mistake, we're out of our minds effing lying.
Yeah.
How many times I can count on one hand how many times I've asked in my adult life, I effed up. I'm taking responsibility. I understand whatever decision you make, I'll own it. Yeah. But I want to do my best. We've all been in that situation. Mm-hmm. So that
every single one of us.
Why do you think? I mean, America loves comeback stories. Mm-hmm. But why do you think there was any amount of criticism regarding Alexis?
Alexis is a special kid. She comes from humble upbringings, and she knew she messed up when she was at Baylor, and it wasn't anything that was too terribly wrong, but she knew that her actions had a big time effect on the locker room at the time. And I wasn't on the staff at Baylor when it happened. I think I'd just gotten to college or a sophomore at that, or junior maybe. But Coach Mulkey, every decision she makes is calculated. And for the betterment of the team, Alexis Morris couldn't stay on the team that year. Right. So Alexis understood that and accepted that, knew that she had messed up, but she had to go across the country and to a lot of different places really to find herself. She had a short stop at Rutgers and then went back to College Station to A&M. And then last summer when she decided she wanted one more stop, she called Coach and said, "Coach, I'm coming to LSU." And you're like, "Well, I don't know if there's a spot." Like, "No, Coach, I'm coming to LSU." And so Kim was like, "All right, well, no, Coach, I am coming to LSU. I will be at the first team meeting." So she wasn't eligible yet. I don't think she was fully enrolled in school yet. But Alexis Morris shows up to our first team meeting before school starts last year, and that was how serious with like 2 bags. It wasn't like she moved everything. It was like, I've got what I need. I've got a few pair of hoop shoes. Get me into school and give me one more chance. And her message the whole time was, I need Kim Mulkey in my life. I need Kim Mulkey in my life. And so seeing Alexis back on campus last year and our ability to help her out and give her some guidance. And Coach always said, Alexis Morris's story is remarkable. And throughout the year this year, Coach Mulkey talked about how excited she was that Alexis is going to be the author of the last couple of chapters of her book. Wow. And so this season was the last chapter, and you could have really broken that season down into a full book. But it's like as the season got further and further along and we go undefeated in non-conference, we're undefeated going into the South Carolina game. We drop one to South Carolina, but Alexis played great that game. You win the rest of your regular season games, finish second in conference. And then you had one little slip up against Tennessee in a game we were up 17 and they went zone and we couldn't score and they got hot and there was a 47-minute rain delay, which you never hear about. But for some reason, and then the controversial call at the buzzer. But I think that Tennessee loss really set a fire under Alexis and said, all right, this is really it. Next time you lose, you're done. And there was a moment before the Michigan game where there was a player-led shoot-around, and I won't really go into detail on that. I'll just say that the coaches left the court and the players were left with a decision to make, and that was about 5 hours before we tipped off against Michigan. And before the Iowa game, the Michigan game was probably the best all-around game we played during the tournament. A 24-point win, great defense. We shot it well. But if it weren't for that morning and that senior leadership from Alexis to keep those girls on the court, who knows? We're probably not sitting here doing this talk. We might be doing the talk, but I might not be as happy, and I definitely wouldn't have those two guys behind me. So.
Well, the goal is to add more. You know, we pulled LeBron when they went to Miami, and we all know what he said. But you know, there's been more criticism now, but this is the name of the game. 2 words: transfer portal. It's not just women's college basketball. I mean, I told people, and you can correct me, I mean, college basketball at the major D1 level for you guys and men is, I would say, 30 to 40% of the roster is going to change every year.
Yeah.
Nowadays. I mean, how in layman's terms, for those watching or listening, how has that changed for you guys as a coaching staff? Because that's a drastic change. I mean, how do you navigate the portal?
Well, I don't want to give all of our secrets away, but I'll state the obvious. Look at the 3 people who helped us the most in our championship game: Jasmine Carson, a transfer from West Virginia; Alexis Morris, a transfer; and then Angel Reese. LaDeja Williams, transfer; Kateri Poole, transfer; Last Tier Poa, transfer. So what do we at, 6 right now? I've got to be forgetting someone.
So 3 more?
So we had 9 new ones. We had Samaya was a freshman. Flage was a freshman. Elisa was a freshman. So there's your 9. So we had 6 transfers that really helped us this year. And we're losing Alexis, we're losing LaDeja, and we're losing Jasmine. So ideally, you want, and we have the number 1 recruiting class in the country coming in. So we have great talent coming in, but there's no other what's the word? I guess what I'm trying to say is you can't teach experience. You have to go get experience. And so it'd be nice for us to sign a junior or senior out of the portal to pair them with the incoming freshman class we have this year. And then you have Angel coming back for her junior year next year, and she'll be the nucleus. You'll have Flage a year older, Samaya Smith a year older. So as you build championship programs, and as I've started to learn why Coach Mulkey's so successful, is you still recruit the heck out of those high school kids, because that's what it takes to win long term. But when you get really greedy, you can say, all right, we need a shooter. We need a post player. That's what the transfer portal is for, at least for us. Now, I've seen a lot of other schools who have really stopped recruiting high school kids, whether it's on the men's side or the women's, and they just want to go get 5 transfers. Hell, I remember my senior year, Musselman was the coach at Nevada, and they had 5 transfers starting for him, and they ended my career. Now, we had a lottery pick in Mo Bamba, but a lottery pick's not going to help you in the NCAA tournament when you're playing against 5 seniors.
No,
so
you can't compare to that.
Grad transfers. So the transfer portal, love it or hate it, you've got to embrace it, because if you don't embrace it, you're not going to win or win at a high level. But at the same time, your freshman and sophomore, I look at Flage Johnson for us this year, freshman of the year in the conference. Her best all-around game was probably the Virginia Tech game, and she probably doesn't even realize it, because it was all because of her defense.
Yeah,
I mean, she shut down some big-time players whose names are going to be called in the WNBA draft tomorrow.
That's beautiful, because the thing is, I do have a problem, though, of those who neglect or ignore high schools, because I won't name names. It's friends of mine that are in the basketball coaching fraternity, saying, this is going to screw high school kids. And I'm like, Not if you balance it, but I can't talk because I'm not in the industry. I'm not as experienced as people like you.
Well, and I'm not extremely experienced, but the great thing about me and the position that I'm in is I'm around some very experienced people who have been in this industry for a long time and done it for a long time. But you look at some of these kids who are on championship teams, look at their growth from their freshman year to their sophomore year to their junior year, and then go look at some of these other kids around the country who there's maybe a reason that they're in the portal for the second or third time, or something didn't work out. It's very rare that a freshman is going to be ready to play immediately, at least on the women's side.
That's a good point. No, that's true. That's true.
But if you've got the freshman wherewithal to believe in a coach, because part of recruiting is building a relationship with a kid. And that's a relationship you're going to build from the time they're really young to the time they get to college. Now, once they get to college, some coaches just say, all right, throw them out into the water and let them swim. Now, other coaches, the really good coaches, are actually in the pool helping them swim, so to speak, with them every day after practice. They're up in the office watching film. I would say Flage, our freshman, watched the most film out of anyone this year, outside of maybe Alexis, who is our starting point guard. And that is a testament to not only the type of kid she is, but the type of player she wants to be. And on top of that, she has a record label with Rock Nation, and she was producing music all year. So it's when you build these relationships with kids, you've got to stick to your roots and to what helps you be successful. And that's a great balance of young talent and experience and maturity. And when you put that together, that's what gets you those. Yeah. There.
What are those?
Greenville regional champion and national champion.
What did you just win? That's a national title.
Yep.
National title.
Year two.
Swag. Well, I think there's a certain key member named Angel Reese who kind of gave us some insight. I saw this on Twitter, and I know you saw it. I think you retweeted it. Yep. This was pretty solid. I like her. I like her. What she didn't go into names, but she kind of gave some insight on what's going to be happening with LSU women's basketball in the near future.
Oh, yeah, that's the goal. You got to see all the Americans we got coming in next year, and then we're going to dive in the portal. Trust me. We're going to do it again. So just know we're coming. We're coming.
First of all, she's bringing big energy. Yep. Not many people have that.
Nope.
So you can't give any more insight on this platform than what she did. I want to give a proper shout out to our Stories Inside the Man Cave March Madness Bracket Challenge winner. This is kind of a long, dramatic way of doing it. By the way, he's in Minnesota. I couldn't give him the $100 gift card to Dirty's near the UT campus, but this is our official way of giving this guy a shout out. Brock's dad finished dead last.
Sounds about right. We did a family bracket challenge. It's strictly for bragging rights.
Right.
And my women's bracket won. My men's bracket did not. So
you didn't pick LSU to win it all, did you?
Oh yeah.
of course. I
had us in South Carolina, but I had 3 of the 4 Final Four teams right, and
that's impressive.
Had us cutting down the nets. Now, once we got to the Final Four, was I a little biased? 100%. But
yeah, I would expect if you didn't.
If you don't believe, then you're never going to win.
Since second segment's very short, we end these first segments with man cave stories. They're usually comical stories that are just as amusing when you talk about them currently as they were when it happened. Is there any man cave story that you can recall that still comes up in this modern era, currently, anytime when you get around a certain group of people?
Anytime I'm around Isaiah and Miles, for the Texas people, we always go back to the Christmas break we had my freshman year, which was Miles' freshman year. The dorms were closed for a short amount of time, and I was living at Callaway, which was only second year that it had built there. So it was like the Taj Mahal, and all my fraternity roommates were gone. They were all Sig Eps, and so they were home for the holidays. Well, one of them had come back one weekend, and Miles had basically moved a bunch of his stuff in there, and they were like living out of my apartment. They enjoyed that. And there were some nights where we would go out, either to Dirty 6th Street, whatever. And I've got a little bit of, when I was in college, I had a sleeping issue where the alarm sometimes didn't work for me. So it got to a point where on Thursday nights, if we were going to go out, we would Uber back to the Irwin Center, and we would sleep on yoga mats in the locker room to make sure we didn't miss 6 a.m. workouts on Friday. So that's one of my favorites. Straight from the bars to workouts. We make sure the managers would wake us up, take a cold shower, and you're ready to go. So I'd say that's just all the memories from college.
Right.
You can't really pick one or two. And for me, we never really won anything major when I was in college. But yeah, I'd say just the experiences with the team and all the road trips you go on. We had a fun time in the Atlantis, in the Bahamas. We went to that tournament there. Australia still has to be the greatest international or trip we ever went on. Dylan Osikowski and I were talking about that a few weeks ago. We got destroyed our first game of that tournament, or not tournament. It was exhibition games. And Shaka comes into the locker room. He goes, well, we didn't fly all the way over here to not have any fun. So that'll be the last practice we have. And we'll do a little shoot around before the next 3 games, but let's just have a blast. And so we went scuba diving. We got to do some fishing, got to go to the opera house. And it just little things like that are what makes your college experiences so special. Everyone says wins and losses come a dime a dozen. Now, if you win the big one, you're going to remember that one forever, but it's the ones that get you to where you want to go that you remember, and you never really remember the scores. But I think we're in the works right now of planning our international trip for next year, so we're trying to figure out where to go as a team, because it's crazy what type of bonding you can do away from the court. And without basketball involved at all. Now, everyone knows the main goal is basketball and to win championships, but you've got to figure out how to, and it was our theme this year, piece it together. That was our wristband all year long.
Okay.
Piece it together. And so you take 9 new players, you take 2 new staff members. We had a lot of different pieces of the puzzle, and it was nice. I think I don't know which newspaper it was, but it might have been a student newspaper, a local paper here that said pieced it together after we won the other night. So
brilliant.
It's special. Really all those memories. Now, a recent memory, and this one has to do with my brother. My brother, he visited Baton Rouge quite a bit, but he doesn't really stay. He'll stay for like a weekend. Well, on Selection Sunday, he texted me and he's like, hey, like, you got anyone staying at your house the next couple of days? I was like, no, you're fine. Come down whenever. Well, on the Wednesday of Selection Sunday, he books a one-way flight to Baton Rouge. And he's like, hey, pick me up at the airport. I land on Thursday. I think he landed on Wednesday night or Thursday. He was like, pick me up at the airport. I'm staying with you. I was like, okay. He goes, yeah, I'm staying with you till y'all drop me back off in Dallas for the Final Four. I'm like, hey, really? Like, we're year 2. Have you seen the teams in our region? He's like, yeah, but y'all be fine. Like, y'all drop me off in Dallas. And so I was like, all right. So I picked him up from the airport, and he's got a huge bag with him. And I'm like, all right, so he's serious about this. Like, he's actually
literally going to do that.
Literally going to do it. So we win our first 2 games that at home against Hawaii and Michigan. He's like, all right, so just tell your other ops person who's in charge of travel, Jordan, just tell Jordan that I'm flying with y'all to Greenville. I was like, okay, are you going to ask to fly? He's like, no, I told you I was going to be here. So I text Jordan. I'm like, hey, Jake's flying with us to Greenville, and he'll fly back with us to Baton Rouge after. Well, we win the first game against Utah, and then we get the draw against Miami. And I'm like licking my chops, like, all right, we can beat Miami. Like, I really think we're the better team. And so after the game, we cut down the nets, and my brother's on the court, and he goes, told you y'all were taking me back to Dallas in the most smart ass way. And I'm like, yeah. And that sounds like a short story, but that's almost 2.5 weeks between when he got there to that regional championship game. And so he's working on, he's like, I don't know what to get you. I was like, you don't have to get me anything. And so he's actually going to get me something for the house, kind of a commemorative brother gift that I'll be able to remember that. But, if that's what it takes for us to get to Final Fours, I'd love for him to do that, because he was with us. I mean, he'd come to practice and watch practice. He'd be at shoot-arounds. When we were on the road, he was at team meals. And that's just another thing that I have to say about Coach Mulkey, because people all around the world have this misconception of Kim. She's the most down-to-earth, real person you'll ever come across if you meet her face-to-face. And she said it after we beat Miami in that Elite Eight game. We were on the runway for almost 4 hours in a bad storm. We couldn't leave Greenville. We had 7 babies under the age of 4 on our plane, whether it was coaches' kids, other staff members' kids, our trainers' 2 kids were on. So she always in the group text will say, I do not want you to neglect your children when it comes to stuff like this, because they want to be a part of it and you want them to be a part of it. And
of course, yeah.
She always talks about when she was a young coach, her son Kramer and her daughter Mackenzie, she always brought them along, because those are the memories you're going to cherish forever. And I'm single and have no baggage, so to speak, no kids. But being able to experience that with my brother was real special, because we're really close, and we played high school ball together. We were at Texas together, and our staff. I mean, other staffs like to throw around the word family, but our staff really embraces it. And from the administration down, every Sunday, our president's wife and another lady who was a former assistant coach at LSU, also was a former assistant coach at Texas back in the day, Shaida Williams.
Okay. Yeah.
They do a devotional every Sunday. And it just brings everyone closer together. And it's just been a remarkable run. And it's not just the postseason. It's not just the wins. But those are what you're going to remember. And so for any of the young listeners out there who have aspirations of playing college sports, or hell, even high school sports, like, live it all up, soak up every moment, because they're the best days of your life. And now being able to be on staff with such a quality group of people and working for such a great coach, I don't think I sit back enough and realize how lucky I am to be in the position I am at 26 years old.
No, it's a great story. First of all, I got to meet the SEC family, soon to be all SEC family. That is the Schwartzes. And then Kim Mulkey from afar. I mean, I've interviewed her several times back in the previous life, so to speak, and just admired from afar. And of course her fashion. That's off the chain. That's unbelievable. But Joe, we're going to take a quick break, and this is going to move really fast.
Okay.
And we got to, I don't know, the sight of Tiger Woods at the Masters was not a pleasant one. It was not. But that's coming up on the other side of this break. But we got to give a shout out to our guys at Hargrove Roofing. And you may I hope you remember this guy. He was a former Longhorn defensive tackle who's the star of this spot right here.
Here at Hargrove Roofing, we try to think outside the box to kind of get the creative juices flowing. So I brought in my friend Stevie Lee, former defensive tackle for the Texas Longhorns. He's going to help the team strategize, really motivate them, light a fire.
This guy's going to block down. This guy's going to block down. You put your butt into the guard, and that way my Mike linebacker gets free to do what?
Not only are they going to learn a thing or two, but they're going to also leave with a great attitude and a bunch of smiles on their faces.
I'm sorry, what does this have to do with roofing exactly?
Get out.
Right now.
I said get out.
For me, that's what it's all about. It's just having fun, making our employees have a great time. Hargrove Roofing. Know who's on your roof.
Quick shout out to Stevie Lee, Evangel Christian, Shreveport, Louisiana.
There you go.
You know my history. God, what was he? Early 2000s.
Right.
God, he was on some good teams back in the day.
God, Cole Pittman, Chase Pittman.
Yeah.
There's a long list, and the Booties.
Yeah. God, I'm not that old, but I remember those teams. Was he on that? He was on the Rose Bowl team in 2004 when they beat Michigan.
Yeah. And then I think it was a grad or a student assistant. I think
05 for the Rose Bowl. And
05. God, what a run! What a run! He's a successful real estate agent now. Just like you, followed your footsteps. You know.
Well, and MJ McFarland. I mean, that's a little bit younger, closer to my age. And then you've got Dylan Haynes. I know he's crushing it. There's a lot of former football guys. Connor Lambert right now is killing it in the real estate world.
That is a funny human being.
Oh, Lammy. Missed that. I got a nice text from him on Sunday night. So he's trying to keep in touch with them as much as possible, but everyone has their own world, and it's good to hear from them every now and then.
TikToking is one of those places where things like that can happen.
Yep.
But for the most part, I'd say TikTok's rather hilarious. I kept it tame for you. It involves a young little dude just being very honest what he just hurt when he fell over on his little I don't know what it is. It's like we all had one of these, but it's the volume's not great, but you all know that what kids will say anything.
I see more and more stuff on TikTok, and I'm slowly starting to learn how to use it a little bit. A lot going back to what I was saying about recruiting. A lot of these high school kids love social media. And,
yes.
They love seeing stuff like that. And then I get people sending me stuff on TikTok all the time. Comedy. That might be the problem. I don't sleep much is because when I finally finish work during the day, I get home and I'm scrolling through TikTok, and next thing I know, it's 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. So,
what did Charlie Strong say? Social media is the downfall of society.
Yeah. Well, Charlie.
Hey, man, tell me something good.
Schwartz, Joe Natty, the national champion, pride of Waco, Texas. Former Longhorn personality. Tell me something good that you think. Man, obviously there's two things behind you that are great, especially the one on the right of the screen. It's taller than the other one. It says national on it, and champion the other word. But tell me something good to all the great people of who follow stories inside the man cave?
Just stick with it. And if you put your mind to something, you can always achieve it. I had this goal written down a long time ago. Darren Roberts, I was in his class my freshman year, and I actually sent him a picture of the note card that had been in my wallet, and I had checked off the other 3 boxes, and the last thing on there was national champion. And so he sends me a text back, and he said, "Whoa, wasn't expecting that one today." And because it's the note card that's folded up around his business card. And I said, "Professor Roberts," I call him Coach. I said, "Yeah. Coach, this dream came true a little earlier than I thought." I said, "I'm going to celebrate it for a while, but you can bet your bottom dollar that I'm going to get another note card out, and there's some bigger and better dreams that I have." So it's one of those things that I'm a big, firm believer that if you write stuff down, it makes you focus on it even more. We've got 2 girls on our team, Flage and Angel, with vision boards. And so that when they wake up every morning, there's their personal goals, their team goals on that vision board. And both of them this year on their vision board was national champion. And that's not – the staff didn't even know that. But for Flage and Angel to show us time and date stamps on their camera roll of their vision board, there's days where they come to practice and we could be mad as hell at them. But when they're going back home to reset and get ready for the next day, they're thinking about that national championship. So it's been a special ride. And I think that it's one that I'm going to remember for a long time. And I just, like I said, when we were talking about my experience coaching younger kids, just try and do the right thing and take advantage of every day, because tomorrow's not promised. And we live in such a crazy world. God, forgive people if they do bad things. If someone upsets you or if you upset someone, apologize. It's not that hard to do. Just try and be better than you were the day before, and just try and do something on a daily basis that can impact others, whether it's as small a thing as saying thank you or as big a thing as helping someone lift something. And just be a good person. And I hate getting on social media and seeing people just want to bash people or start or try to create a narrative that isn't true. There's enough problems going on in this world. It sounds corny, but everybody love everybody. Life's too short for that. It's too short for us to not take advantage of the blessings that God bestows upon us. I'm not trying to get into preacher mode here, but after going through such a special run with a special group of kids and a phenomenally special group of coaches, it showed me that time is precious and don't waste today and always be present, because if you're worrying about the past or if you're trying to look too far into the future, you're not going to be able to enjoy what's in the moment. So that's what I'm telling you good today.
Oh, no, that's great. That is inspiring. And then, like Rodney said, RT, be where your feet are. For the national champion, former Longhorn, that being Joe Schwartz, and also big congrats to Coach Mulkey and all of you in Baton Rouge for the national champion LSU women's basketball team, and to the OG Man Cave boys, that being Hardball Harge, Coach Mo, and Big Mike at Last Stand Hats. We out.
Big Mike owes me some hats, by the way. I haven't forgot about that, Big Mike. I see the DMs and the text messages. So, hey, who knows? I might have a couple of these extra ones.
Big Mike.
Mike, come through with it. But I appreciate you having me so much, Sean. Thank you.
Absolutely, brother. We are out.
You see the drippy, I'm fitted up. Hop in my car and the giddy up.